Just to tell you a little bit about me, I was married at a young age and found myself divorced with three small children when I was 30 years old. And I wasn't expecting that. And it was, of course, a devastating experience for me at that time, but ultimately became a pivotal point in my life. And I decided, I had been faithful all of my life up until then, and I trusted God and I wasn't going to give in just because my life took a major detour that I wasn't expecting. So, dug in my spiritual roots and trusted God and just began to deliberately design a life that I wanted for my future. And I was single for a while with my three little children, and that was a difficult time. But I was able to find a wonderful husband and get remarried. And he had been previously married. So he had a daughter, and I had my three children. And then we had a baby after we got married. So since that time, we have almost completely raised our big, beautiful blended family of five children. And it's been a wonderful wild ride, as I like to say. It's been great, but there have been all the typical struggles all along the way. It wasn't easy, but it's been great, and I'm so grateful for that. So, as I've been thinking about what it's like to live single in a family centered church, the thought just kept coming to me that we are all single. Even when you're married, you are responsible for yourself. And if you're not single now, then you once were, and at some point will be. So this topic really applies to all of us, and a message that I feel like is important for everyone. And my experience, I feel like I've learned that we're all more alike than we are different. And as our challenges and our blessings come, they come to us as individuals, regardless of our marital status. So I really feel like this is such an important topic, and I'm happy to be here and speak about it tonight. My goal is to really focus on our faith and our testimony and eternal truths that we all have as a way of protecting us against discouragement, disappointment, and losing our faith through our difficult times. And for many of us, that's our single time. So let's see, I'm ready for my slides. There we go. So I want to share three thoughts about this tonight. And the first is that longing for something more is natural. We teach and believe in the sanctity and the doctrine of the family. And so when you're single, it's not what you have planned, it's not what you expected. And many times it's not what you want. And it can feel like something has gone wrong. This should not be happening. I know that's how I felt when I became single unexpectedly. And I think that that's normal, that feeling that something has gone wrong. It's a part of our divine calling to desire to be united with a partner. It's in our DNA, and it's a part of our natural instinct that we want to be connected in a companionship. And we're programmed to find safety and security in a group or a companionship. So when we're single, it can feel like something's gone wrong. And it's because it's not right. It's not ideal. You are meant to be part of a marriage and part of a family and part of a group. And I think those feelings that we have that something isn't right, it's for a reason. It's to drive us to reach that goal and to ultimately prepare ourselves for that eternal union. And I think that it's something that we all feel, and it's just part of our human existence here on earth. I feel like all men and women feel alone and misunderstood at times and isolated, even when you're within a family. I know for me, I remember feeling more alone and isolated than I had ever been inside my marriage. I kept the things I was dealing with pretty private, and most people didn't really know what was going on inside my marriage, towards the end before it ended. And it was hard to be doing the the family and the marriage alone, and I was disappointed. I thought I had a partner and a helpmeet and a companion that would help me, and I didn't have that for a time in my marriage. And I know I felt more alone and isolated than I ever had been before. So I think it's something that we all have to sort of watch out for and not let ourselves kind of get stuck in isolation or self pity or resentment. I feel like those feelings come from unmet expectations and that it's a universal challenge for all of us to deal with, no matter what our circumstances are, and that it's important to remind yourself that it really is only temporary. However long you are single or have been single, we know that it's a temporary time and that you are meant to be part of a family. And I know it doesn't feel like that when it's happening to you. At least I didn't feel like that. And I understand that because I've been there and I know how it felt for me, that it was too long. But also, we know from the scriptures that there is a time and a season to everything that we experience here on earth, and that all things will change. That, this time that we have here on earth is really just a drop in the ocean of the time of all eternity. And it is really up to us to create our own happiness. And we know that all things in this life are in transition and they're not how they're going to be for eternity. And it's when we have our faith really tested that we can feel burdened and, overwhelmed with the trials of our lives. But I know that everyone experiences those feelings no matter what your marital status is. And there's a beautiful quote that Spencer W. Kimball shared once. He said, "Happiness does not depend on what happens outside of you, but on what happens inside of you. And it is measured by the spirit with which you meet the problems of your life." And we know that problems and challenges and heartaches come to all of us. And many of the blessings that come as faithful saints and, the joys that we experience in our lives, they come to us too, regardless of our marital status. President M. Russell Ballard assured us that God's promises for exaltation, including the blessings of marriage and living as a family for eternity, are available for everyone who is faithful to their gospel covenants. And although the timing of realizing these blessings is not presently known, so if you are single now, then I just want to offer to you that nothing has gone wrong in your life and that it is exactly where you're supposed to be right now. And I know that that thought brings me a lot of peace. The second thought that I wanted to share is be inclusive. And remember that whether you're married or single, that we all have a responsibility to help our brothers and sisters. And I know for me, so much of the joy that I feel in my life comes from helping others experience joy. And we learn in the scriptures that we're here on earth to lift and bless each other's lives, and that we need to be anxiously engaged in good causes and improve the lives of all of those around us. And we can always find people right around us, close by, who are in a much worse situation than we are. And it is so rewarding to help lift them up and bring them along if we can. And I know we're all at different points and places in our lives, but if you are at the point where you're ready to get involved and connect with others and, maybe lead those singles events, then you can be a huge advocate and motivator and an instigator for others if you will assume that responsibility. I know I had some folks like that in my life who were basically cheerleaders and so welcoming and encouraging when I was single. and really helped me feel like I was welcome there. And so I sort of came up with this idea that we should all assume the position of the welcoming committee or the outreach specialist if we can. I don't think those are official callings, at least not that I'm aware of. But if you are in that position where you want to get involved and connected, you can really help other people feel connected if you can reach out to them and help them, be included and choose to connect with others. It can be a lifeline when you are the one that's a little bit, on the fringe or not quite ready to jump in. And so I had a story that I wanted to share about that. Right after my divorce was final and I became a single, woman again, I didn't know any single men. I had 3 children and everyone I knew in my neighborhood and my ward were married. And so I reconnected with a childhood friend who was in my ward growing up, who had also just recently gone through a divorce. And we were both sort of on the cusp of the age for the young single adults. I was just turning 30 and she was 29. And so she found out about this single adult activity. It was a conference in Atlanta, Georgia. And we decided to go to it. And we thought this would be just the perfect place to, meet some great single guys and, start dating as newly single women. And so we drove to Atlanta. We went to the Marriott Hotel downtown and we walked in the door and we looked around and we were like, I'm not sure if we're in the right place. So as soon as we got in, we looked around and we could see over to the left, there was like a bar area. And there were a lot of stylish looking young professionals gathered around. And we're like, maybe that's our group. We're not sure, but they look pretty elegant. And so we kept looking around. And then we saw down at the end of the hallway, there was a ballroom and we couldn't really see anyone inside. So we walked over and peeked in. And to our surprise, we saw a group of very friendly looking, mostly elderly men and women in the group. And some of them were dressed like in full suit. One man was wearing a tuxedo, and some of the women had on, sequin gowns and things. And it wasn't what we were expecting at all. And we both sort of stepped back like, I don't think this is the right place for us. And right as we were trying to sort of scoot out, an elderly man with a cane walked by and said, "Are you ladies coming in? You don't want to miss the party." And we both like backed out. We went to the lobby and we just like, our hearts sank and we just, our reality met our expectations. Let's just put it that way. And we had to make a decision. Are we going to leave? My friend was like, we could always go over to the bar and check out the young professional group, or are we going to stay here? And we decided we would stay and we would make the most of that situation and just have fun. And we actually had the time of our lives. We danced all night long, and I even danced with the elderly man with the cane. And we really got to know people that, we probably judged wrongfully in the beginning. And we attended the Atlanta Temple the next day, and they actually had a speaker. It was Jaco Okasaki spoke the next day. And if you know her, she's amazing. And it was just such a wonderful experience and one of my greatest memories during that time. And I guess the thought I want to share is we could have just judged it quickly and left and went home depressed and disappointed that there weren't any younger single men there, but we didn't. We decided to include ourselves in a place where we knew that even though maybe on the outside those people didn't look like we did, on the inside they were faithful saints who wanted to connect with other faithful saints and be in an uplifting environment, and it was one of the best experiences of my life. So the challenge that I will share with you is to just be mindful of singles around you and encourage them and include them and get involved when you're ready and bring other people with you. We know as members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that we are under covenant to keep keep the principles of the gospel and to share with others. And bring other people with us. And as we know the truth, as we learn in Mosiah, as King Benjamin admonishes us, if you believe all the things, then do them. And so I think that's part of our responsibility in living our covenants is, maybe attending those activities that don't seem like fun at first. And as I like to tell my children, you don't have fun, you are fun. So anything can be fun and if you choose to make it that way. So the third thought that I wanted to share tonight is to stay faithful. In a family-centered church, you may sometimes doubt that you have a place, and nothing could be further from the truth. Every individual counts, and we are all valuable and important to our Father in heaven, and we are not alone, even if we are not married at this time. Sister Julie B. Beck shared a thought that I would like to share with you. She said, "We did not fight in a war in heaven to be single eternally. We did not sign up for that program. We signed up for the whole plan to make covenants, to be sealed eternally, and to have a posterity for eternities. So we do not abandon true principles while we are waiting for our blessings." I love that thought. And President Howard W. Hunter has said that the church is for all members. All of us, single or married, have individual identities and needs, and among which is the desire to be seen as a worthwhile individual child of God. And we are all called to come unto Christ regardless of our particular circumstances. So, while it is true that worthy couples will obtain exaltation in the celestial kingdom, every person, every man or woman sealed in eternal relationship must individually be worthy of that blessing. And so we all have an individual responsibility to become the best disciples of Jesus Christ that we can become, despite whatever circumstances come up in our lives. And I know we all have unexpected, unplanned events that happen in our lives. So, our goal is just to be the best disciple of Jesus Christ that we can be and let our light shine. And I know that as we do that, others will see our light and be attracted to them. Sister Kristen Oakes has talked a lot about her time when she was single. She married President Dallin H. Oakes when she was 53, and she had been single all of her life before that time. And she shared a story about feeling discouraged pretty soon before she Elder Oaks. And she said one night, worried and frustrated about her single situation and her age, she went to her priesthood leader for a blessing. And in her blessing, she was told, if you cannot bear the difficulties and challenges of single life, you will never be able to bear the difficulties and challenges of married life. She said those words were a call to action for her and to make her life wonderful regardless of her marital situation. And if she chose to make her single life a happy one, then she knew she would be blessed with happiness as a married woman, and that happiness had to start right away. So I love that thought. We know life is challenging and it always will be, whether we're single or married. And we all have to rise to the challenges that we're given. And the Lord is always preparing us for greater blessings and happiness through our trials. So we have to try our best to trust Him through those trials. Challenges are what make life interesting, and overcoming them is what makes life meaningful. I love that beautiful thought. I know that the Lord is aware of each one of us and that we are not waiting alone. He knows each of us individually and He hears all of our prayers. He knows our anguish, our fears, our trials, and our triumphs. He is beside us in our trials. And I know that as we draw near to Him, that He will draw near to us. Having faith does not mean that we're filled with joy and conviction all the time. I know that's true. I think that having faith means that you keep persisting and believing that the blessing that you seek is on the way. And I know that when we put our faith in God and we trust that His plans for our life are better than anything we could imagine on our own, we will see miracles. I know that I have seen that in my own life. And if you haven't seen those miracles in your life yet, then don't give up. God is not finished with your life yet. And I say that in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.